Hello, my friend. Tonight, you'll spend a full day inside a medieval bakery, from the first breath before dawn to the last moments of aching stillness beside the oven. You'll feel the flour in your throat, the burns on your skin, and the weight of bread that was never yours to eat. Maybe quiet stories like this help you feel a little more at ease. If they do, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. It's always calming to know we're all here, quietly together. Now dim the lights, make yourself comfortable, and let's drift back, slowly, into a medieval village at sunrise. It's still night when your eyes open, and the room is so dark it feels like your eyelids never lifted at all. Cold presses into your skin through the threadbare blanket, and the only sound is the soft wheeze of your own breath and the distant crackle of a dying fire. There's no rooster crow yet, not even the dogs have started barking, but your body already knows what time it is. It knows by the stiffness in your spine, the way your legs tingle from yesterday's standing, the raw tension in your fingers from the kneading, lifting, shoveling. Sleep never truly took you. Not deeply, just held you by the edges. You hear the wind scratching at the wooden shutters and feel the stone floor through your soles before your feet even touch it. It's too early for the sun, but the dough won't wait for light. You pull on the same rough tunic you wore yesterday and the day before. It smells like ash, old sweat, and something faintly sour like spilled yeast. Your fingers fumble with the stiff fabric in the dark, already aching from the cold. You step outside without a word, no one to speak to at this hour anyway. The air bites your face and seeps into your sleeves, and your breath rises in little puffs that vanish before they even lift past your eyes. The bakery stands silent across the yard, dark and squat like a sleeping animal. You fumble with the latch and push open the heavy wooden door, which groans like something waking against its will. Inside, the air is heavy with yesterday, scorched crusts, old embers, and a flour dust silence that waits to be disturbed. You move by memory. The hearth is a black mouth in the wall, waiting to be fed. You kneel on the cold stone floor, reach for the firewood stacked nearby, and begin building today's heat from the last coals of yesterday's labor. Your fingers are clumsy, and one piece of wood slips and smashes your knuckle, but you grit your teeth and keep stacking. Sparks twitch in the ash, reluctant, then catch. You breathe carefully into the flame until it licks up around the kindling. The warmth feels distant, insufficient, but it's a beginning. You add more fuel, watching the small blaze grow until the shadows on the walls start to flicker. The oven must be brought alive long before anyone else stirs. If the fire isn't roaring by sunrise, the dough won't bake in time, and the whole day will unravel before it begins. You fetch the sacks of flour, coarse, dense, and heavier than you remember, and wrestle them one by one to the long table. There's no measurement, just handfuls and habit. You add water from the bucket hauled up last night, thick and icy. Salt, yeast, what little you have. Your hands disappear into the mix. At first the flour resists, clinging to your skin like powder, but slowly it absorbs the moisture, and the dough starts to form. Your palms push and fold, your knuckles press and twist. Over and over. The table creaks beneath the rhythm. The silence deepens, broken only by the slap of dough and your own rough breathing. Muscles in your shoulders begin to burn, and your lower back aches with the old, familiar pull. But you don't stop. You can't. The dough must be ready, and the master will arrive with the sunrise. Not a moment later, not a second forgiving. Your body aches, your breath shortens, and the dough grows heavier beneath your hands. It's not even morning yet, and you are already behind. The dough is resting now, covered with a cloth that smells like smoke and old lard. and your shoulders sag under the weight of the silence that follows. But there's no pause in this place. No moment truly belongs to you. The fire needs tending again, and your hands, numb from the kneading, need cleansing before the next round begins. You step back outside into the grey hush of a sky still undecided. The wind finds its way into your sleeves, reminding you of how long the day will be. The water trough sits by the bakery wall, crusted with ice at the edges, and you already know what it will feel like before you plunge your hands in. Still, you hesitate. Just a moment, as if maybe this time it won't be so cruel. But the cold waits without pity. You thrust your hands into the basin, and the shock is immediate. It slices through your skin like broken glass, turning your breath into fog. The water is so cold it feels thick, almost alive, coiling around your fingers like a punishment. Your nails ache, your knuckles sting, and the cracks in your palms flare open like wounds rediscovered. You splash water over your face, and for a moment, the cold is all there is. It silences thought, replaces pain with something purer, something sharper. You wipe your cheeks with a coarse scrap of cloth and look down at your hands. The skin is red and raw, flaking around the joints, tight across your fingers like leather left too close to the fire. Every line is filled with flour, grime, and yesterday's labor. You stretch your fingers out in the dim light and see the small fissures that never quite heal. They split wider in winter, weep clear fluid, then dry and harden again, layer after layer of invisible scars. You flex your fingers slowly like testing old hinges. The joints crack faintly, but they obey. For now, your thumbs are swollen from kneading, your wrists ache from repetition, and there's a splinter under one nail that's been there for days. You should dig it out, but the thought of a blade near your skin makes your stomach twist. So you leave it. Like always, you know that later, when the salt from the dough seeps in, it'll sting worse, but you'll forget. The body learns to live with tiny agonies. You rub your hands against your tunic to dry them, but the fabric is stiff and damp, and you end up smearing more soot into the cracks. A fly buzzes near the trough and lands on the rim. Even in this cold, it searches for warmth, just like you. You move back toward the bakery, cradling your hands close to your chest like something fragile, though they are anything but. They've lifted sacks, stoked fires, pulled hot iron from the oven mouth. They've bled into the dough, sometimes without you noticing. They've carried trays heavier than a child, borne heat that would buckle a softer man. And yet they never soften in return. They are not hands anymore, not in the way they once were. They are tools, bark-covered, blistered, and clumsy with pain. You touch your palm with a fingertip and feel only roughness. No memory of touch, of softness, of another skin. Just callus against callus. Just the residue of survival. The fire inside the bakery crackles as you return, beckoning you back to the heat. You step through the door and close it behind you. The wind stays outside, but the cold stays in your hands. The door closes behind you with a reluctant thud, and already the warmth from the fire presses gently against your frozen skin. Not comforting exactly, just reminding you that heat still exists somewhere. The bakery smells of soot, flour, old yeast, and sweat soaked into stone. It's not a pleasant scent, but it's familiar, and your body relaxes slightly under its weight. You move towards the mouth of the oven, that great black belly carved from clay and brick, silent now, but not asleep. You can feel it before you see it, the residual heat lingering in the stones, rising faintly like breath. The ashes have settled into grey dunes, soft and deceptive. They look like snow, but sting like cinders. You grab the iron rake, its handle splintered smooth by years of use, and kneel before the oven, your knees grinding against the cold floor. The rake scrapes against the brick, metal teeth pulling through the ash in heavy, dragging motions. You work slowly, methodically, clearing the remnants of yesterday's fire. Embers still glow in the deeper layers, blinking weakly like dying eyes. A few flare red when disturbed, as if surprised to still exist. You try not to crush them. You'll need every bit of heat they still hold. Your hands ache as you lift the flat pan beneath the oven's throat and empty it into the waiting bucket. The ash settles in clouds that make your eyes sting and your throat tighten. You cough once, then again. The taste is familiar, bitter, dry, and strangely sweet at the edges. Some days it coats your teeth so thoroughly it feels like chewing dust. You've stopped noticing. You only wipe your face with your sleeve and keep raking. Once the ashes are cleared, you examine the oven walls with practiced eyes. The heat lingers strongest at the rear, still enough to boil spit. Good. You won't have to start from nothing. You stack the new firewood slowly, arranging the pieces like bones, dry and crooked and worn from storage. The logs are split thin to catch quickly, and you layer them over the coals you've preserved. A few curls of dry straw follow, scraps from the floor that might still hold warmth from the sun. You strike flint against steel, once, twice, until the sparks land where they need to. A flame catches in the straw, hesitant and pale, then licks upward like a tongue tasting the air. You lean in to feed it breath, slow and steady, coaxing it to grow. Your face begins to sweat, and the backs of your hands glow red in the firelight. You blink through the smoke, eyes watering, nose running, but you don't stop. Soon the oven groans with life again. Fire dances across the floor, bouncing against the curve of the dome, casting shadows that twist and shrink with each new log you add. The heat rolls out in pulses, spreading into the room like a tide. You sit back on your heels and watch it for a moment, not with awe, but with respect. The oven is the heart of the bakery. It gives, but it takes more. Heat, time, flesh, patience. Every loaf, every crust, every crumb is paid for in sweat and smoke. You stand slowly, brush the ash from your knees, and wipe your forehead with a hand already streaked grey. Behind you, the dough waits, and in the oven, the fire waits too. Both hungry, both indifferent to your pain. You know their rhythm, and you know your place within it. The flour rises in the air like breath from a corpse, weightless, ghostly, and everywhere. It settles on your sleeves, your collar, your eyelashes. It clings to the tips of your nose hairs and coats the back of your throat with a dryness that water can't rinse away. It's under your fingernails, behind your ears, and packed into the cracks of your knuckles where skin has split from cold and use. The mixing trough yawns before you, its wooden sides worn smooth and dark from years of sweat and dough and splinters that never worked their way out. You've poured in the flour, the lukewarm water fetched before dawn, the coarse salt that scratches your skin when you stir, and the sour-smelling leaven saved from yesterday's batch like a living thing that must be fed. The mixture is waiting, heavy, silent. It doesn't care how tired you are, it demands your hands. You reach in with both arms, and the chill of the ingredients seizes your joints like iron. The dough resists you at first, cold and grainy, reluctant to become more than parts. You push into it with the heels of your palms, folding it, pressing it down, pulling it back into itself. Again. Again. The wooden bench groans beneath your weight. Your spine curves forward, your shoulders rise like hammers, and your wrists scream with every rotation. The dough slowly begins to change, becoming smoother, warmer under your hands, sticky and alive. It fights you less now, though it still pushes back, elastic, springing, testing your strength. Your breathing grows louder in the still air. Each exhale sends up a puff of flour from your chest. You lick your lips and taste salt, ash, and dust. There's no rhythm to it yet. Only labor, only noise and silence, layered one over the other. Your hands are no longer hands, they're tools, heavy, sore, half numb. You lose track of time as your muscles settle into the repetition. Press, fold, turn. Press, fold, turn. Sometimes you close your eyes, letting your body do the remembering. The dough grows smooth, then sticks again, then releases. You add more flour, then more water. The balance is never perfect. No one taught you how much is enough. You've learned by the sound it makes against the trough, by the pull it gives when lifted, by the way it clings to the skin of your forearm or falls from it. A good baker reads with fingers, not eyes. You knead harder, now faster, sensing the end but knowing you still have far to go. Your back begins to throb, and a sharp pain flares in your left wrist, but you don't stop. You don't even pause. The bread will rise only if the dough obeys, and the dough obeys only if you force it. The first hints of blue creep into the sky beyond the narrow window slit. The cold light reveals your arms dusted in white, your tunic streaked with paste, your hair wild with flour. The dough finally yields, pliable, glossy, warm with inner life. You stop, not because you want to, but because it's ready. You cover it with a cloth, let it rest, and stand there, breathing hard. Your chest rises and falls, your arms hang like weights from your shoulders, and your legs feel brittle beneath you. You wipe your face with the back of your forearm and leave a smear of dough across your cheek. Somewhere a rooster begins to crow. You've been working since before it knew to wake. You look at your hands, red, cracked, shaking, and wonder how many more times they'll do this before they forget how to stop. The dough rests beneath its cloth like a patient pretending to sleep. You can feel it watching you, testing you. From the outside, it seems calm, smooth, warm, slightly domed from within. But the moment you press a fingertip into its skin, it tells the truth. It sticks too much. Not like honey, not like sap. Worse, it grabs at your skin as if offended, clinging in globs that refuse to release. You try to scrape it away, but it smears further across your palm. This isn't right. You added too much water, or not enough flour. Or maybe it's the leaven, old and bitter from the cold night. You sniff the dough and wince. It's sharp, almost sour. That could be good. Or it could mean ruin. You don't know. You never really know. You just hope. And hope is the most fragile ingredient in this place. You dust your hands again, toss a bit of flour onto the surface, and knead with short, careful movements, trying to bring it back. But the dough fights you now. It tightens beneath your palms, becoming stiff in places, loose in others, like a beast with too many limbs and no spine. You work silently, glancing at the door every few moments. You know he'll be here soon. The master. His boots will echo on the stones, his breath will smell like old onions and cheap wine, and his hands, those thick, red hands, will prod the dough once and pronounce it a failure. Or not, but he'll know. He always knows. You wonder how he does it, how he can feel a single lump and declare it too wet or too slow or too angry. You've watched him do it 100 times, and every time he's right. You scrape the sides of the trough, trying to salvage what you can. You whisper things to the dough, not words exactly. More like apologies in a language only your hands understand. Please, not today. Please, just rise. But the dough doesn't care about your fear. It isn't grateful for your sweat. It responds only to chemistry and time, to warmth and patience, to a balance that still escapes you. And yet you're the one who will pay if it turns out wrong, if it sags, if it bubbles in strange places, if the crust splits wrong or the inside stays damp. You remember the last time, how he made you eat the ruined loaf in front of the others? Chew it slowly while they laughed. You remember the taste, raw, bitter, humbling. You won't let that happen again. You'd rather burn your hands than bring out another failure. The door creaks. A heavy footstep crosses the threshold. You don't look up, but your entire body stiffens. You can feel him near, behind you, beside the oven, watching. You pretend not to notice. Keep kneading, keep smoothing, keep pretending the dough is fine. His silence stretches across the room like smoke. Then a grunt. Then nothing. You wait for the verdict, the insult, the blow. None come. Not yet. He steps closer. His shadow falls across your hands. You lift the cloth gently, as if the dough might betray you louder if disturbed. He leans in, pokes it with a single thick finger, and snorts. It's a sound that means everything and nothing. You wait, breath held, pulse quick. He walks away. No word, no blow, no order to start over, just the echo of his boots and the smell of his sweat. The dough didn't pass, but it didn't fail loud enough to matter. Not this time. The bakery changes the moment he walks in. Not suddenly, not with any fanfare, but like a draft slipping under a closed door. You don't even need to see him. You hear the uneven weight of his boots on the stone threshold, the wheeze in his breath from a night spent drinking too deeply, the faint clink of his belt as he adjusts his tunic. The air shifts, your spine stiffens. The dough beneath your hands no longer feels like a living thing. It feels like evidence. You don't turn around. You keep working, slow and deliberate, as if focus can shield you. But your body knows he's there. Your skin knows. His presence drips through the room like a slow, bitter oil. The scent of old wine reaches you before his voice does. Thick and sour, woven with garlic and meat from last night's meal. You breathe through your mouth, barely. He says nothing at first. He never does. He prefers to circle, to examine, to let the tension settle into your shoulders before he speaks. His footsteps are loud and slow, deliberate. He moves past the fire, checks the ash pile, kicks at a loose bucket with the toe of his boot. He lifts a baking peel from its hook and drops it again, loud enough to make you flinch. The silence isn't peace, it's accusation. You keep kneading. The dough is better now, obedient, but your hands tremble slightly with each turn. Then finally, his voice, dry and hoarse, breaks through. Too pale, too early. You started before the oven was ready. You don't answer. You don't defend yourself. You know better. Your breath stays shallow. He steps closer, and the heat of his body joins the fire in warming your back, though it brings no comfort. His hand lands on your shoulder, not firm, not gentle, just heavy. And then it's gone. He walks to the trough and pulls back the cloth with a single flick. The dough has risen a little, not enough. His finger plunges into it, then withdraws. He rubs it between two fingers, watching the stretch. Too wet, he mutters. You overcompensated again. He sighs, loudly, theatrically, as if your incompetence wounds him personally. This isn't difficult. You measure, you count. You don't guess. Are you guessing again? Still you say nothing. Not out of defiance, but because he doesn't want an answer. He only wants the silence after his question, the confirmation of his authority. He pulls the cloth back into place with a grunt and moves on, inspecting the tools, the bowls, the unused flour stacked in the corner. He finds a crack in one of the scoops and holds it up as if it alone proves your laziness. Everything breaks under you, he mutters, and drops it back with a loud clatter. He pours himself a cup of water from the clay jug near the fire, then spits the first mouthful into the ash, muttering something about the taste. You don't look. You don't stop moving. You roll the dough now with smoother motions, trying to make your hands forget his voice. The oven hisses behind you, and the scent of wood smoke wraps around the bitter staleness of his breath. He stands in the center of the room, arms folded, watching, judging, always judging. Then, after what feels like a full hour in silence, he turns toward the door. "I'll be back before the sun's above the tower," he says. "Fix the mess." Then he's gone, boots thudding, door slamming, and the wine-heavy air left behind like an after-image. You release a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. The bakery is yours again. For now, but not in peace, only in duty, only in fear. The oven growls low in its throat, alive but unsatisfied. You crouch before it like a servant at a shrine, arms loaded with splintered wood and hands already blackened with soot. The fire inside crackles and hisses, not yet roaring but restless, licking half-heartedly at the kindling like an animal testing its hunger. You slide more logs into the mouth, carefully, slowly, making sure the flame catches. It does, eventually, but not all at once. First a flicker, then a breath, then a curl of orange that bites at the fresh wood with noisy impatience. Smoke puffs outward from the opening, curling around your face before you can dodge it. It slides into your eyes like vinegar, and you squint against the sting, blinking furiously as your nose begins to run. You've worked this fire before. You know its moods, but today it resists you. There's heat, yes, but no light. The windows above the workbench are nothing more than rectangles of ink, and the cracks in the shutters are still filled with night. You can't see the corners of the room. You can't even see your own hands clearly unless you raise them close to the flames. Everything is in half shadow, and every movement feels like reaching through fog. You know where everything is. The scoop, the peel, the bowl with yesterday's scraps. But still your fingers hesitate in the dark, and every misstep feels louder. The wood creaks underfoot like it wants to betray you. The iron tools clang too hard when placed down, as if they want to call the master back. You wipe your eyes with your sleeve, smearing soot into your skin, and lean closer to the oven again. The fire needs more, always more. You crouch lower and blow into the coals, slowly and steadily, feeding oxygen to the reluctant flames. The fire brightens for a moment, embers glowing like tiny mouths, then shrinks again as smoke pours out with renewed spite. It stings your throat this time, and you cough. Once, then again, trying not to lose balance as your eyes flood. Tears track down your cheeks, carving clean lines through the grime. Your lips taste of ash. Your teeth feel gritty. You press a new wedge of wood deep into the oven's belly and listen as the bark begins to crackle. The sound is sharp, almost like laughter. You step back, breath hitching, arms sore. The oven is waking, but only just. Its breath is warm against your knees, but its heart is still dim. The heat is rising, but the light never comes. Not yet. Behind you, the bakery remains a cave. The edges of the room fade into black. The bins of flour are just shadows. The tools hang like skeletons on the wall, motionless and accusing. Even the dough seems quieter in this half-darkness, as if it too waits for the sun to make things real. You reach for more wood, stack it near the hearth, and wipe your palms on your apron, leaving handprints like burn marks. You look towards the door. There's no glow under it. No hint of morning. Just more night, stretched thinner than before. You feel the warmth now, faintly, across your shins and face. But it's a liar's warmth, only surface deep, not enough to matter. The fire eats and growls, and you feed it like you always do, but it offers no comfort, only smoke and pain and the promise that you're not done. Not even close. The dough is ready, or as ready as it will be. You lift the cloth that's kept it warm and feel the slight swell beneath your fingers. the way it springs back just enough when pressed. It's alive now, soft and warm and faintly sour, and it smells like a long-forgotten cellar. But it's not the smell or feel that matters. It's the measure. You reach into the trough, hands already powdered with flour, and pull off the first lump. Not too much, not too little, just enough to fill a palm, to sit properly in the mold, to bake evenly in the fire. You don't have scales. They're for the guild masters in the city, for the wealthy bakers who can afford brass weights and balanced arms. Here, you have only your eyes, and your eyes are tired. They lie. They guess. And guessing is dangerous in this place. You shape the first portion, rolling it between your hands, watching how it settles, how it sags. Then another, and another. Each one must match, not by weight, but by sight and feel. If one is smaller, it burns too quickly. If one is larger, it stays raw in the middle. If they don't rise the same, the tray goes uneven in the oven, and the crust will crack wrong. You've been told all this before, screamed at mostly. Once the master pressed your face into a bad batch to show you the difference. Said, if your hands are blind, let your nose learn. You'd gone home with dough in your hair and ash in your mouth, and still the lesson hadn't stayed. Because sometimes your fingers betray you. Sometimes the dough feels heavier than it is. Or the light tricks your eyes. Or your thoughts drift, just for a moment. You press and fold, portion after portion, lining them on the floured board like soldiers waiting for orders. You glance between them, comparing size and shape, pinching one, adding to another, cutting off bits with a dull knife and tucking them into others like stolen time. Your fingers move fast, but your eyes move faster, scanning, judging, correcting. And yet you know, one of them is wrong. Always one. Maybe more. You can't tell which. Not for sure, and the master will see. He always does. You remember yesterday's loaves, how he tore one open with thick fingers and pointed to the uneven pocket inside. You call this bread? He said, throwing it into the ash. A rat wouldn't eat this. And you'd nodded, ashamed, even though the customer had taken the rest without complaint. It doesn't matter what they accept. It matters what he expects, and he expects precision from eyes too tired to deliver it. The board is full now, 34 loaves, each shaped by hope and fear in equal parts. You dust off your hands and stare down at them, trying to see what he will see. You tilt your head. You squint. One seems wider, another sits lower. You adjust them again, fingers trembling, and tell yourself this time they are right. This time he won't notice. But doubt has already crept in. You hear the fire crackle behind you, and the warmth that once felt like purpose now feels like judgment. The loaves are quiet. Still. But they whisper all the same. They whisper that you've failed before, that you will again. And when you do, it won't be the dough that pays the price. It will be your hands, your back, your pride. Weighing with eyes is no skill. It's survival. And survival here is always one guess away from punishment. The loaves are proofing now, lined on the wooden board, their smooth surfaces dusted with flour and covered by a linen cloth, so thin it's more a gesture than a barrier. You check them one last time, shape, spacing, rise, then turn to the fire. The oven is ready. The floor of it glows faintly, and when you flick a droplet of water onto the stone, it hisses and vanishes like breath. You know the order. The first loaves in, the best heat, the cleanest stone, the most even flame. These are not for the market, not for the peasants who line up later, and certainly not for you. These are the village orders, the ones that matter, the ones you cannot fail. You reach for the baking peel, long and blackened from years of use, and begin the careful work of sliding the first loaves into place. They must be spaced evenly. They must bake identically. You breathe slower now, despite the heat, because this is the part that matters most. You know every name attached to these loaves. The 2 long ones on the left are for the Reeve. His wife wants them darker, with a tougher crust. The 3 round ones in the middle are for the manor kitchen. The steward will send a boy for them just after dawn, and if they aren't hot and golden, the master will hear about it. The narrow loaf to the right, with the cross scored into the top, is for the chapel. Father Bricius insists on the cross, always, and if you forget it, he calls it heresy. You don't know if he jokes. The pair near the edge are for the watch. Thicker, rougher, but still made with the same flour you'll later water down for the rest. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that bread is bread, but your hands already know the lie. The best flour goes to those with coin or power. What's left goes to the poor, and to the likes of you. Once the loaves are inside, you close the oven mouth with the iron door and sit for a moment, watching the firelight flicker across the black stone. You count the minutes in your head. Too long and the crusts will burn. Too short and the crumb will collapse. You've burned enough loaves to know that failure comes fast and without warning. But what stings more is knowing these aren't even yours. You've touched them, shaped them, fed them heat, but they belong to others. The smell of rising crust fills the room, warm and yeasty, and your stomach growls, but you look away. Even a corner would be theft. Even a crumb. You once saw a boy lose a finger for stealing from the cooling board. The master had held up the stump for everyone to see, saying, "This is what hunger earns if it forgets its place." You haven't forgotten. Not since. When the loaves are done, you remove them one by one, placing them on the high rack near the back where the air is dry and still. You don't admire them. You don't dare. Even if they're perfect, even if the crusts sing as they cool and the bottoms are golden and hollow-sounding when tapped. They're not for you. They're not even for the bakery, not yet. The people they're meant for haven't arrived, but their claims have. They come first, before the shop, before the regular folk, before the children with coins in knotted cloth, or the women with empty baskets and weary eyes. You line up the loaves like soldiers, perfect and silent, and move on to the next batch, the ones that might feed the rest, if the fire holds, if the dough rises, if nothing goes wrong. But even then, even if all goes well, the best bread will already be gone. Already spoken for, already promised to those who never touch the dough, but always taste it first. The oven is closed again, filled with the next round of loaves, these not for the reeve or the priest, but for the villagers, the workers, the hungry ones who will line up outside the bakery door long before the bell strikes noon. These loaves are your test. They carry no noble name, no official seal, but their importance is no less absolute. The master will judge them more harshly, not less, because these are the ones that will be sold, measured, compared. These are the loaves that speak for the bakery itself. And for you. If they burn, the blame is yours. If they sag, if the crust blisters or caves in, if they taste of ash or come out pale as death, it's you who will be called worthless, you who will bear the shame, you who will work the next day with bruises blooming under your sleeves. No one will ask how hot the fire was, or how wet the flour felt in your hands, or whether the leaven was too tired to rise. No one asks. They only see what went wrong. You crouch beside the oven and listen. The fire inside snarls softly, and the smell of baking bread begins to rise again, thicker this time, more complex. You've come to know the different stages by scent alone. The sharpness of early heat, the warm heart of rising, the rich deepness of crust forming, and finally, the warning. That faint bitterness that means you've lingered too long. You lean close, nose tilted toward the door, eyes half closed. You think you smell it now, the change, subtle, a single note off-key. Your heart jumps. Not yet. Please, not yet. You grab the iron peel and unbolt the oven mouth, opening it just wide enough to let the heat slap your face and the smoke sting your eyes. Inside, the loaves are changing color, deepening from white to gold to brown. One corner darker than the rest. You pull it open wider and begin. One by one, you lift them from the heat, swift and steady. Your hands move fast, your arms trembling slightly from the effort and the urgency. The peel bites under each loaf, and the oven breathes its fury into your face. A bead of sweat slips down your neck and vanishes into the collar of your tunic. You lay the loaves on the cooling rack and scan them quickly. Some are perfect. Some are not. One, just one, is clearly too dark. You touch the bottom, and it thuds like overbaked wood. You feel your stomach clench. You hide it at the back of the rack. Not because it will go unnoticed, but because you can't bear to look at it right now. Maybe the master won't check. Maybe no one will buy that one. Maybe a hungry boy will take it gladly. But none of that matters if he sees it first. You close the oven and return to the trough. More dough waits, and the fire needs feeding. The rhythm doesn't break just because something went wrong. If anything, it speeds up. You knead with more force now, the ache in your shoulders sharper, the flour clinging tighter to your sweat. You try not to think about the burnt loaf. But it's there, in your breath, in the bitter aftertaste that won't leave your mouth. You hear his voice already, in your head. Too long, too slow, too stupid. The words don't have to be real to hurt. You've heard them enough to remember the tone exactly. You keep moving, you keep shaping, you keep hoping the next round will rise just right. But even as you do, you know the truth. The bread will either burn or it will rise. And no matter what happens, it's your fault, always. The heat in the bakery isn't clean. It's not the comforting warmth of a hearth or the dry bite of summer sun. It's wet. It clings. It seeps through layers of linen and wool and skin. The fire from the oven spills out across the room, heavy and oily, mixing with the rising steam from the dough and the breath from your lungs. You feel it gather under your arms, along your back, at the base of your neck. Your tunic sticks to you like a second skin, soaked through in patches that grow darker with every movement. You try to wipe your forehead, but your hands are already slick, and the sweat just smears across your brow. Then comes the flour, always the flour, drifting in the air like ghostly snow, falling silently, settling on every damp surface. It clings to your skin in sticky clumps, turning each drop of sweat into paste. Your arms are coated from elbow to fingertip, a strange mix of white dust and grime, like the bark of some bleached, dying tree. You reach up to scratch your temple and leave a mark there, too, your own fingers pressing flour into your scalp. You exhale sharply through your nose, but even your breath feels thick, as if the very air is trying to knead you back into dough. The floor is slick underfoot, not with water but with a fine film of flour and ash, and you have to step carefully to avoid slipping. Every surface you touch leaves something behind, and takes something with it. You try not to think about the taste in your mouth, salt and yeast and the bitter edge of fire, but it lingers all the same. There's no escape from the smell, the texture, the closeness of it. The bakery is alive, and it's pressing in on you from all sides. You keep moving because stopping would only make it worse. You shape another loaf, lift another tray, feed the fire again. Each movement sends more heat rolling over your skin, more flour rising into the air. You try to clear your head, but even your thoughts stick to one another like dough too wet to fold. You think of nothing clearly, only fragments, the pain in your wrist, the sound of the master's boots, the crack of crust when a loaf cools too fast, the growl of your stomach, the number of trays left to bake. They all pile atop one another like lumps in the trough, heavy and half-formed. There's no silence in your mind anymore, only noise without words, sensation without shape. You wipe your eyes again and blink through the dust, trying to remember if you've already prepared the next batch or only meant to. The fire doesn't care. The oven doesn't wait. The dough doesn't forgive. You keep working, not because you're strong, but because the work leaves no room for weakness. You move with the same repetitive rhythm, the same pressure in your knees, the same burning in your shoulders. Your skin itches under the flour, but scratching makes it worse. Your eyes sting from sweat, but blinking slows you down. You want to breathe deeper, but the air is too thick. So you take shallow gulps and keep going. You tell yourself it's nearly midday, that the worst has passed, that maybe the master won't look too closely today. But even that thought sticks in your mind like wet dough in a cold bowl, heavy, useless, and impossible to scrape clean. The moment comes suddenly, without fanfare, just a faint shift in the scent, a darkening at the crust's edge, a hiss that doesn't quite sound like steam. You kneel down and open the oven door with the iron hook, and the heat pours out like a breath held too long. It hits your face, curls your eyelashes, makes your skin prickle as though you've leaned into a pot of boiling soup. But you don't flinch. You've done this before. The peel is already in your hand, and your fingers know the angle, the weight, the timing. One by one, you slide the iron blade beneath the loaves, lift them out, and lay them on the cooling rack. The crusts sing as they meet the air, a soft crackle like tiny applause. The sound is fleeting but perfect. For a moment, you let yourself believe they're good, that you've done well. You inspect them quickly, though you know you shouldn't linger. The longer they sit, the faster the heat seeps from the oven, the more uneven the next batch will bake. But still, your eyes pause on the curve of each loaf, on the way the crust has split just slightly where it should, on the soft golden color blushing beneath the flour. One loaf has a swirl of ash near its base, another has a blister on top, but they look real, honest, bread made with hands and fire, not with wealth or patience or time. You reach down without thinking and press your fingers gently to the side of one of them. It's too hot. The pain shoots through your fingertips like a spark, and you snatch your hand back, cursing under your breath. The skin burns, but the pride remains. For just a second. A single second where you think, I made that. Then the moment is gone. The fire crackles behind you, demanding attention. The peel scrapes the oven floor, calling you back to work. The door creaks. You hear a voice outside. Someone approaching, someone who will soon expect warm bread and exact change, and a smile that doesn't smell of smoke. You shake the sting from your fingers and return to the oven. The next batch is already in. You can't stop. You shouldn't have paused. There's ash on your sleeve now, flour in your eyebrow, and the crust that looked perfect a moment ago now seems uneven. Was the base too dark? Did the rise sag on one side? You don't know anymore. The heat has faded from the pride and remained only in your hands. You rub your fingers against your apron and keep going. The next tray won't bake itself. The rack is full, but none of it is yours. You know better than to forget that. These loaves will be taken, sold, broken open by other people's hands, judged by other people's mouths. You'll never know which ones were praised, which ones were tossed to pigs, which ones were eaten slowly and gratefully by someone with fewer teeth than coins. You'll never taste them. You'll only remember the feeling of lifting them out, the crackle they made, the burn in your fingers, the second of pride that rose in your chest like steam and vanished just as quickly. Bread doesn't remember its baker. It remembers only heat, time, and salt. And you, smeared with sweat and soot, are just one more pair of hands trying to keep the oven fed. The noise comes before the bodies, shuffling feet, impatient voices, the creak of the bakery door pulled open too hard, too fast. Then it begins. The space that was quiet for hours now fills in an instant with heat and breath and noise, as if the village itself has spilled through the doorway. They don't enter in order, not really. They push, they elbow, they wave coins and cloth-wrapped bundles. Some call out names, others just point. There's no line, there never is. Everyone wants the same thing. The warm loaves, the early loaves, the ones pulled from the oven just minutes ago and still breathing out steam. The crust must be hot, the crumb soft, the scent sharp and fresh. Anything less is failure. Anything older than now is treated like trash. You try to keep your head down and your hands moving, but it's impossible not to feel the press of urgency. You lift loaves from the rack with speed that borders on panic, turning and twisting to avoid shoulders and outstretched hands. The board where you set the bread down becomes a battlefield of requests and accusations. That one's mine. I was here first. Don't give me the burnt end again. A boy shoves his coin pouch forward and knocks into your wrist, nearly sending a loaf tumbling. A woman reaches past him, grabs a crust, and sniffs it before tossing it back. Too hard. Not good enough. A man at the side demands 5 at once, but his payment is in buttons and barter, and you don't have time to argue. Behind them, more voices, more feet, more hands. They fill the room like water from a burst barrel. The sweat from your neck now slides down your spine. You keep passing out bread, keep trying to remember who came first, who paid already, who's still waiting. But it all blurs together. You shout once, just once, for space, for quiet, for order. No one listens. They never do. The master isn't here yet, and they know it. You are the weakest wall between them and what they want, and it shows. They don't mean to be cruel, not most of them. But hunger has a voice louder than manners, and fresh bread is too rare a luxury to wait for. Some of them haven't tasted warmth in days. You can see it in their eyes, the way they look not at you, but at the bread, as if it could vanish at any moment. Maybe they're right. You've had days when it did. When the fire failed, when the flour ran low, when the dough died in the cold. But not today. Today the loaves are ready, and they're flying off the board faster than you can count them. By the time the last one goes, your arms are sore, your apron soaked, your mouth dry. The room is quieter now. The ones who came early are gone, clutching warm bundles to their chests, already walking home through the mud. A few linger, those too late, too slow, too poor. They ask what's left, and you offer what you can. A broken crust, a burnt corner, a round that didn't rise quite right. Some take it, some don't. One man mutters under his breath and spits on the floor before leaving. You don't respond. You just stare at the empty rack, the crumbs on the counter, the coins in the chipped bowl. Then you turn back to the oven, where the next batch waits. The fire's still strong, the dough's still rising. The day isn't over. It never is. And outside, more feet are already gathering. More voices, more heat. Mid-morning is only the beginning. She's smaller than the others, easy to miss in the chaos. The crowd has mostly thinned out, bellies a little fuller now, hands a little less frantic. But she's still there, pressed against the edge of the counter, hair tangled, eyes wide, fingers clutching something wrapped in a bit of linen cloth. You don't notice her at first. Your hands are still busy wiping crumbs from the board, stacking spent trays, checking the oven's glow. But she doesn't leave. She just waits, silent and unmoving, until finally you look down and meet her gaze. Her eyes are dark and hollow, not from cruelty, but from waiting too long in too many places where no one saw her. She doesn't say a word. She just opens the cloth and shows you what she's brought. A few coins, thin and dull, smoothed by years and passed between too many hands. You count them quickly, without touching. 3 farthings, a bent halfpenny, and something round that isn't even proper money. It's not enough, not even close. You glance at the rack. There are still loaves, a few left over from the last batch. One of them has a blistered crust, another is a little lopsided. Not the worst, not the best. You could spare one. You could hand it over and no one would notice. Except you're not alone. You hear the master's steps before you see him, the slow drag of his heel, the faint wheeze in his breath. He's behind you, leaning on the doorframe now, arms crossed, watching. He's seen the girl too. He says nothing, just waits. You look down at her again. She doesn't plead. She doesn't blink. She just lifts the coins a little higher, like maybe they'll shine more in the light. You pick up one of the loaves, the smallest, and weigh it in your hand. It's warm, still soft, the crust beginning to sing its slow, crackling song. Your fingers curl around it without thinking, but your eyes drift sideways to the master. He hasn't moved, still watching. His face doesn't change, but you know what's behind it. If you give her the bread, you do it with your own coin. If you give her the bread, you answer for the loss. If you give her the bread, you teach others that patience earns reward. And he doesn't like lessons he didn't approve. You hold the loaf for a breath longer, then set it down again. You point to the smaller one, the one with the burnt edge. You push it forward, just enough to make it seem fair. Not charity, just business. She nods once, wordless, and slides the coins across the board. You don't watch her leave. You don't look back at the master. You just pocket the coins, wipe the board clean, and return to the fire. But the feel of the warm loaf still lingers in your palm, heavier than it should be. The coins are light. They always are. The weight stays elsewhere, in the stomach, in the silence, in the way her eyes didn't ask and still made you answer. There will be more like her. There always are. And each time you'll look at the bread, then at the man behind you, then at the girl in front. And you'll choose, not between right and wrong, but between trouble now and trouble later, between soft crust and harder consequence, between hunger and habit. Today she walks away with something warm in her hands. Tomorrow it might be different. He waits near the door, hunched and still, his back pressed against the wood as if the wall is the only thing holding him upright. You almost don't notice him at first. He blends in with the shadows, quiet and unmoving in the way only very old people learn to be. When you do see him, it's because of his hands. They're not reaching, not demanding. They're folded in front of him, crooked and thin, veins bulging like roots under bark. He's holding a small cloth bundle, tighter than he needs to, like someone might try to steal it from him. You've seen him before, here and there, never early enough to get the best loaves, never loud enough to argue. Some call him the toothless one, though not to his face. You don't know his name. He speaks slowly, as if every word has to be lifted by hand. When he reaches the counter, he lays down a few copper coins, stacked neatly, almost reverently, and then raises his eyes to meet yours. "The soft kind," he says, his voice brittle. "The one with the soft crust." You nod, pretending to think, pretending to check what's left on the rack. But you already know. There is no soft kind left. The last batch is all heel and crust, baked too long at the edge of the fire, browned and beautiful but cruel on the gums. You look at the loaves anyway, as if maybe one of them will soften under your gaze, as if maybe your wanting will change them. The man watches you with patient hope, the kind that only disappointment teaches. He knows you're pretending. He doesn't stop you. He just waits, his fingers resting on the edge of the board like someone who once held a spoon but forgot what it's for. You pick up a smaller round, feel its weight, and press your thumb against the side. It's hard. Not stone, but close. Not meant for chewing, not meant for men without teeth. He couldn't eat this even if he soaked it in broth. Even if he tried to break it down with tongue and will alone. You should tell him the truth. You should say, "There's nothing soft today. Come earlier next time." But he knows that already. He always comes when he can. You don't ask why he's late. Maybe it's the walk. Maybe it's the cold. Maybe he sold something this morning just to have the coins. You stare at the loaf and feel the lie in your hands. If you hand it over, he'll take it. He'll thank you. He'll try to eat it and fail. And still he'll thank you. and you'll be the one who sent him away hungry. You place the loaf in his cloth anyway, wrapping it carefully like it matters. You say nothing. You don't look him in the eye. He doesn't complain. He just nods, folds the cloth over the bread, and turns slowly towards the door. You watch his back as he walks away, one step at a time, the bread tucked under his arm like a burden, not a gift. And something inside you knots, tight and cold. You feel like a thief. Not because you took anything, but because you gave something that won't help, because you pretended to provide, because you fed the ritual, not the man. The coins stay on the counter, warm from his palm. You don't want to touch them, but you do. You brush them into the bowl with the rest, and they jingle softly, stupidly. The fire crackles behind you. Another batch waits. The next mouth will want what you don't have. Again and again. The board is empty again. The racks are bare. The last loaf has left your hands, vanished into a basket or a mouth or a memory, and for a moment there is silence. A breath. A stillness. But it's not rest. It's not the end. It's just the space before the next beginning. You turn back to the trough and see it waiting, half filled with flour, the surface like a field before rain. A sack leans against the wall, half open, spilling its contents in a slow, pale collapse. The air is thick with dust again. You reach for the scoop and begin to pour. The flour falls like sand, soft but heavy, and the moment it lands, the clock starts over. Another batch, another mix. Your hands already ache. Your wrists feel splintered. Your knuckles burn in places where the skin is thin. But you move anyway. You have to. The water is cold again. It always is. You add it slowly, stirring with your fingers, then with your whole hand, then with both arms, plunging them deep into the trough like you're searching for something lost. The dough clings harder this time. It pulls at your skin with wet resistance, sticky and defiant. The ratio is off. Or maybe your hands are just slower, more tired. You press harder, fold deeper, dig into the center to find the lump that won't dissolve. You work in silence, broken only by the soft thump of dough hitting wood, and your own breath catching when your back tightens unexpectedly. This isn't the second batch, or the third. You've lost count. It doesn't matter. There will be more. As long as the fire holds, as long as the flour remains, as long as the orders keep coming. The dough never stops. There's something cruel about its persistence. It rises while you sleep. It waits while you bleed. It demands attention, always. If left alone too long, it collapses. If handled wrong, it turns sour. There's no forgiveness in it. Only timing. Only chemistry. Only labor. You begin to fold it into itself with a practiced rhythm, your whole body rocking with the motion. You don't think anymore. You don't plan. You don't even really feel. You exist only in the repetition. Press, fold, turn, press, fold, turn. The dough starts to yield, becoming smooth, elastic, more like muscle than food. You pause only to shake out your arms, to crack your shoulders, to blink sweat from your eyes. Then you return to it. The trough is deep. The dough is heavy. The air is close. And the clock, whatever clock you once followed, is long since broken. You know what comes next. Portioning, shaping, proofing, baking, selling. The same rhythm, again and again. But first, this. The mix, the weight, the sound of your body against a substance that doesn't care if you're tired. The fire crackles behind you. The oven wants feeding. The trays wait to be greased. But none of that matters if this step fails. This dough is tomorrow's bread, tomorrow's coin, tomorrow's scorn. You finish kneading, finally, and cover the dough with a cloth that still smells of yesterday. Then you wipe your hands on your apron, already crusted with old paste, and look toward the flour sack. It's not empty yet, not even close. There will be another batch, another trough, another storm of dust. The dough never stops. And neither do you. Because you can't. Because no one will do it for you. Because the bakery eats time and body in equal measure, and it is always, always hungry. The sack isn't light, but it's lighter than it should be. You notice it as you drag it closer to the trough, the way it folds under your fingers like cloth that's already half empty. It should be heavier. You tied it shut last night yourself, or thought you had, with the twine pulled tight and knotted twice. But now the knot's loose, the top folded oddly, and when you open it, there's a sound. Not loud, not sudden, just the soft scrape of movement, something small and quick, nestled down where flour should be packed tight. You freeze, then reach slowly, peel back the top folds. And there it is. A rat, not large, not sleek, not even frightened, just chewing. Calmly, greedily, muzzle buried in white, tiny paws lifting clumps to its mouth like it owns the world. Its eyes meet yours without shame. You feel your stomach twist. Not from fear, from anger, from disgust, from the simple knowledge of what this means. The flour in that sack is now fouled, touched by filth, teeth, urine, maybe, droppings, definitely. You can't use it, not if the master finds out, not if the smell gives it away, but you need it. You need it. The dough you just mixed is already proofing. The next batch must start soon, and this sack was supposed to be full enough for all of it. You reach into the corner of the room for the broom, your hands already shaking with a different kind of fatigue. The rat doesn't run until you move. It watches you, cheeks full, bold, as if daring you to do something about it. Then, quick as a blink, it darts up the side of the sack, across the floor, and vanishes behind the woodpile with a flick of its tail. You bring the broom down hard, too late. The silence afterward is loud. You open the sack wider and stare inside. The top layer is ruined, pressed flat where the rat nested, dotted with tiny holes and broken bits of crust it must have dragged from somewhere else. You reach in and sift the flour between your fingers. The texture is wrong. You can't use this, not even the bottom half. If he finds a whisker in the bread, or worse, he won't ask where it came from. He'll ask why you didn't stop it, why you didn't guard the flour like coin. You think for a moment, just a moment, about salvaging some of it, skimming the top, mixing carefully. But no, it's not worth it. You shove the sack aside, harder than needed, and the puff of white dust that escapes makes your nose burn. One sack lost, a dozen loaves worth of flour wasted, and you'll be the one who pays, not in coin, but in hours, in bruises, in shame. You sit on your heels, elbows on your knees, staring at the now useless flour like it betrayed you personally. You feel the heat of the fire on your back, the ache in your thighs from crouching, the tightness in your temples where exhaustion has begun to bloom into pain. You rub your eyes and feel grit there. Ash, flour, maybe tears. You don't even care. Somewhere in the bakery, a tray clatters. Somewhere outside, someone calls for bread. But you stay still for a moment longer, listening for another sound, another scuffle. Nothing. Just the fire. Just the quiet. You rise slowly, your joints cracking, and reach for another sack. Not as full, not as fresh, but untouched. For now, you start again. You always do. Even knowing the rats will return. Even knowing the sack was never really yours. Even knowing what it cost. You don't hear him come in. One moment the bakery is noise and motion and the dull rhythm of your own breath. And the next, he's there. The master. His boots heavy on the floor, his coat stained with grease, his jaw tight. He doesn't speak. He rarely does at first. Instead, he moves straight to the rack and lifts a loaf from the latest batch. Not one of the best. Not one you were proud of. The crust is pale on one side, split wrong on the other. You know it already. You saw it when you took it out, felt the softness in the bottom, knew it hadn't risen the way it should, but you left it. You hoped it would go unnoticed. A child might buy it. A poor man with no taste for detail. It wasn't the worst. But it was enough. Enough to turn the day. He weighs the loaf in his hand as if it offends him by existing. Then, without warning, his arm arcs and the bread is airborne. It slams into the wall with a muffled thud, leaves a smudge of flour, and falls to the floor like a dropped stone. The room is silent. The only sound is the fire, still cracking steadily, and the small, almost pitiful roll of the ruined loaf as it spins once on the ground and stops. He turns to you, his face dark with something more than anger. It's disappointment, disgust, the kind that burns longer. He doesn't shout, not yet. He only gestures at the wall, at the bread, at you. "Explain," he says. Just one word, flat, cold, and there is no explanation that will matter. You open your mouth anyway, but nothing comes out. You stare at the loaf, then at him, and feel your tongue shrink behind your teeth. He doesn't wait. He never does. He walks toward you, slow, purposeful, each step like a weight being dropped into your chest. His eyes don't leave yours, but they don't really see you. They see the failure, the wasted flour, the ruined firewood, the dent in his pride. He stops too close, close enough that you smell the stale wine on his breath, the grease on his collar, the sweat from a morning spent somewhere more comfortable than this. His voice, when it comes, is soft. Too soft. "How many times?" he says. "How many times do I have to tell you?" And you still have no answer, because you've heard this before, because you've lived through it, because part of you knows it doesn't matter how many times. The mistake is made. The bread is wrong. The blame is yours. He steps back and kicks the loaf across the floor, then walks away. You stoop to pick it up, fingers trembling as you cradle it like something wounded. The crust has split entirely now, the side caved in. It's still warm, still smells like food, but it's not bread anymore. Not to him. To him it's proof of your limits, of your carelessness, of your place. You toss it into the bin under the table, the one meant for feed scraps and burnt ends. Your hands linger in the air a second too long. You feel them shake. Not from fear. From the weight of all the times this has happened before. You return to the bench, to the flour, to the dough that still waits. You don't cry, you don't curse, you just start again. Because the day hasn't ended. Because the loaves won't shape themselves. Because the master's mood may change, but the work does not. And because next time, maybe, you'll get it right. Or not, either way, it will still be your fault. The scent has been with you since before dawn. Baking crust, warm yeast, smoke curling from the mouth of the oven. It clings to your skin, to your hair, seeps into your clothes, and lives behind your eyes. You smell bread even when it isn't there. You feel it in your nose, in your throat, in your chest. Every time you exhale, it comes back. You've handled 100 loaves today, shaped them, weighed them, loaded them into the oven, listened to their crusts crackle as they cooled. You've given them to customers, watched them vanish into cloth bundles or into greedy hands, seen teeth tear into them right there at the counter. You've swept crumbs from the board, from the floor, from your apron. You've licked your lips out of habit more than once, but you haven't eaten. Not a crust, not a bite, not even a stolen edge broken off a burnt loaf. It's not that there wasn't a chance. There was. Several, in fact. A boy dropped a heel on the floor. An old man left behind a half-coin's worth of flat bread in a tantrum. One of the loaves cracked down the middle, uneven and unsellable. You looked at it. You even picked it up. But the master was there. Or a customer. Or the fire was too hungry. Or you were too ashamed. You told yourself you'd wait, that you'd eat later, when the rush was over, when there was time. But time has a way of slipping past when your hands are busy. And your hands are always busy. Now the hunger presses into you like a fist from the inside. Your stomach growls, quiet at first, then louder, angry, insistent. You fold yourself over the dough, pretending to stretch your back, but really you're curling around the ache, trying to press it down. The pain sharpens each time you knead, each time you lift. It gnaws at your sides, pulls at your spine, pulses behind your ribs like a second heartbeat. And worse than the pain is the saliva. Your mouth waters constantly, as if it's taunting you, preparing for food that never comes. You swallow it again and again, each time thicker, each time more bitter. You try to think of something else, of the fire, of the next batch, of anything, but every sound, every smell, every passing breath reminds you of bread. You dream of it with your eyes open. Not feast bread, not sweet rolls or honeyed cakes, just crust, just a corner. Something warm and dense and real. You imagine biting into it, feel your jaw tighten, your throat open. But there is nothing, only the taste of smoke and your own tongue. You pause for a moment and glance around. No one is watching. The rack is half full. A single loaf sits crooked, its bottom too dark, its top too flat. No one will buy it. You reach toward it. Slow, uncertain, fingers trembling not from guilt but from hunger. But before you can touch it, the door creaks. The master is back, or someone else. It doesn't matter. You pull your hand away, smooth your apron, and return to the bench. Your stomach growls again, louder now, and you flinch, as if it might give you away. The fire spits behind you. The dough rests under the cloth. You press your lips together and try to breathe through your nose. The scent of bread is sharper now, richer. You close your eyes for a second, but it doesn't help. It never helps. Hunger doesn't fade in a bakery. It just learns to wait. Quietly. Endlessly. It happens when no one is looking. Not the master. Not a customer. Not the boy who sweeps the ashes. Just for a moment, the bakery is still. The fire hums in the oven. The next batch is rising under cloth, and outside, the village has quieted for the midday lull. Your hands tremble. Not from fear, but from the sudden absence of noise. That silence is what allows the thought to bloom. Not hunger. Hunger has been there for hours. But the idea of relief, of reaching, of taking. There's a loaf, forgotten, almost, sitting alone near the edge of the board. Not warm, not pretty. The crust has gone hard. The bottom's burnt. No one will buy it. You glance at it, then away, then back. Just once more. No footsteps yet, no voice calling your name. The bakery breathes, and you move. Your fingers find the edge of the loaf, and pull gently. The surface resists, as if accusing you. But it gives. You turn away from the window, from the door, from the oven itself, and crouch beside the sacks of flour. You don't sit. You just hunch there, folding into yourself, and break the bread open. It cracks unevenly, stiff and dry. Not soft, not what your body dreamed of, but it smells like salvation. You bring it to your mouth and bite. The crust grates against your teeth. The inside is tough, and it sticks to your tongue like paste. But you chew. You swallow. You keep going. The flavor is smoke and salt and everything you didn't get this morning. You don't savor it. You don't dare. You eat quickly, like it might vanish in your hand if you pause. One piece, maybe two, just enough to soften the ache in your stomach, to hush it. You wrap the rest of the loaf in a torn scrap of linen and tuck it behind the woodpile. You won't take more today. You tell yourself that. You know better than to push your luck. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve and rise slowly. Body heavier now, but steadier. There's flour on your chest and crumbs on your fingers, and you brush them off with the kind of care that comes only from fear. The guilt doesn't come right away, only the warmth, that quiet warmth in your belly that feels like forgiveness, not from the master, not from the gods, from your own bones, the knowledge that you'll last another hour, maybe two, the knowledge that you stole nothing grand, just a piece of bread, just a reason to keep working. Back at the bench, everything feels louder again. The fire crackles sharper, the kneading trough groans more, the tools clang with sharper edges. But inside you, something is quiet now. Something is full, not completely, not richly, but enough. You glance once more toward the hidden loaf. It won't keep. It'll harden more by dusk. But it's yours, not by right, not by kindness, but by need. And that, in this place, is as close as you ever get to permission. You breathe in. The scent of dough is thick again. The fire needs tending. The next batch is ready to be shaped. Your hands move again, surer now, even if only for a little while. One piece of bread, not enough to be fed, but enough to endure, enough to remain, enough to be able to kneel before the trough again and start over. The basket is heavier than it looks, not because of the loaves, they're light now, still warm, but no longer steaming, but because of the path ahead. You lift it with both hands, arms already aching from the morning's labor, and step out into the daylight that barely filters through the bakery's soot-darkened windows. The air outside is thicker than inside, damp with the weight of the sky, and the mud sucks at your boots before you've even left the doorstep. The village street is a churned mess of earth and filth, and you keep your steps wide, trying to stay upright. But it's no use. The mire swallows your feet to the ankles with a thick, wet pull. Every step forward is a struggle. The basket tilts, and you lean to one side to steady it. The loaves shift under the linen, knocking into each other like bones in a box. The road to the inn is short, in theory, but long in practice, twisting between half-collapsed sheds, manure heaps, and carts that never seem to move. People pass without looking, or worse, with too much attention. A boy calls something from behind a fence. A dog follows at a distance, sniffing the air, curious. You keep your head down. It's not the loaves they're watching. It's the idea that you might be distracted, that you might drop one, that you might be carrying more than you're allowed to. The inn doesn't wait long when it sends for bread. The cook there is impatient, and the barkeep even worse. You've made this delivery before, and you've been sent back more than once, with a slap, with a curse, with a loaf flung into the mud because it was too dry or too cold or simply too late. You've learned to walk quickly, but carefully. Always careful. You turn the last corner and see the inn. Its roof is sagging in the middle, and smoke pours from a crooked chimney. The front steps are slick with something that isn't just rain, and near the doorway, as always, stands the boy. He's not young, but he's small, with sharp eyes and a grin that never feels friendly. You've caught him watching you before, too closely, too long. Today is no different. He leans against the door frame like he owns the place, even though everyone knows he's nothing but a pickpocket, tolerated by the innkeeper for reasons you'd rather not think about. As you approach, his eyes flick to the basket, then to your face, then back again. He doesn't speak, but you feel the question in his gaze. How much would one loaf cost me if your hand slipped? You shift the basket closer to your chest and say nothing. Inside, the inn smells of sweat, smoke, ale, and onions. The air is thick and close, and the hearth fire adds a dull roar beneath the din of voices. You step carefully between benches, ignoring the glances, the hands that reach too far, the jokes mumbled just loud enough to hear. You reach the back, to the kitchen, and place the basket down on the table with the respect you're expected to show. The cook doesn't thank you. She never does. She just lifts the cloth, counts the loaves, and grunts. "One's lighter," she says, though you know it isn't. You say nothing. She waves you away. You turn and walk back through the inn, avoiding the boy at the door now picking his nails with a stolen knife. Back into the mud, back toward the fire. Your hands are empty, but your shoulders still carry the weight. Another delivery made, another breath survived, and always, another trip waiting just ahead. You've carried this basket too many times. The handle has frayed where your fingers always grip it. Thin fibers pulling away from the weave, soft as thread, brittle as dried grass. You noticed it this morning. You meant to say something, but you didn't. Not to the master, not to anyone. You thought just one more delivery, just a few more steps, just hold it a little tighter, and now you're halfway back from the inn, the sky beginning to spit, the mud thicker than it was an hour ago, and the weight of the bread shifting again and again inside the dampening cloth. Then it happens. Not a snap, not a tear. Just a soft, tired sigh of failure. The basket tilts. The handle gives. The whole thing folds in your hands like a collapsing rib cage, and before you can catch it, the loaves tumble downward, one by one, like stones dropped from a rooftop, into the mud. You stare for half a second, too stunned to move. Then you fall to your knees and start grabbing. Your hands are already black with soot and flour and ash. What's a little more filth? You reach into the mud and lift a loaf, its crust now streaked with wet dirt, its bottom soaked. You shake it off, turn it in your hands, press it to your chest. It's ruined. You know that. But you can't leave it. The master will count. He always counts. Another loaf, this one half submerged, crushed under the edge of the fallen basket. The linen is filthy now, stained through. The bread sticks to it when you peel it away. You try not to look at the faces around you. Someone's watching, they always are, but your eyes flick upward all the same. A woman with a bucket, a boy with a slop pail, a dog licking its chops at the corner of the alley. You gather them all. Every loaf, every ruined, filthy piece of your morning. You don't cry. Not here. Not in the open. But your hands shake as you stack them back in the broken basket, cradling it like a wound. You know how this will go. You'll bring them back. You'll try to explain. You'll be told it's your fault, because it always is. No one will ask about the handle. No one will care that the basket was rotted through, that the road was soaked, that your arms were tired from everything that came before. They'll only see the filth, the waste, the failure, and they'll make sure you feel it. You clutch the cloth tighter, pressing the loaves together to keep them from sliding again. Your apron is soaked through now, the chill of the mud creeping into your knees, your thighs, your spine. You rise slowly, legs shaking, the broken handle looped uselessly over your wrist. You carry the basket like a child now, arms curled around its sides, back hunched to steady the weight. You walk without looking up. The mud squelches with each step. The street has grown more crowded, and the stairs are sharper than before. You hear a laugh. You hear a whisper. You keep moving. One step, then another. The bakery is still ahead. The master is still inside, and the oven still burns, waiting for your return. The loaves in your arms grow colder, heavier. You know what's coming. But there is no choice. Only the walk. Only the weight. Only the dirt. And the knowledge that none of this, none of it, will be forgiven. The moment you step back into the bakery, the heat hits you like a wall. It's not the dry heat of sun on stone or the comforting warmth of a hearth. It's the suffocating, damp, relentless heat of an oven that's been working without pause since before the sky turned grey. Your skin tightens under your tunic, sweat blooming instantly along your spine, across your chest, down the backs of your knees. The fire should have been fed by now, but it wasn't. The coals are slumped in the oven's belly, blackened but not dead, exhaling a slow, bitter smoke that clings low to the floor like fog. The door's still cracked open, and the embers hiss in protest. You drop what's left of the basket, your arms still aching from the strain, and go straight for the fire. No time to clean yourself, no time to drink. The fire comes first. You kneel, bones cracking beneath your weight, and lean into the oven's throat. Your hands move by memory, stacking dry splinters of wood, crumpling old straw, reaching for the bellows that hang like a tired limb from the wall. You squeeze the handle, and it groans, wheezing a breath of life into the coals. Sparks twitch. Smoke thickens. You blow gently, then harder, your face inches from the glow. The smoke rises and finds your eyes, your nose, your mouth. It fills you. It chokes. You blink furiously, but the tears don't help. They only make it worse. You cough into your sleeve and press your lips together to stop the sound. If the master hears you choking, he'll say you're weak, that you let the fire die, that your lungs aren't made for real work. You keep feeding it anyway. Wood, straw, breath, pain. The fire finally catches, flaring suddenly with a gust of dry heat that singes the hair on your arms. You recoil for a moment, then lean back in to adjust the logs, dragging them into place with an iron hook, your palms red from the proximity. The oven's heart beats again, reluctant, groaning, but alive. The warmth spreads quickly, reasserting itself over the room, over your body, over everything. But it's not gentle. It presses into your skin like a punishment. Your clothes are already soaked through from the rain and your own sweat, and now they cling to you like wet parchment. Every step you take feels slower than the last. Your legs don't want to obey anymore. They drag beneath you, each movement weighted, as if you're walking through something thicker than air. Your knees buckle slightly when you stand. You lean on the wall just long enough to pretend you were only adjusting your balance. You should sit. You should drink. You should clean your hands before touching more dough. But the fire is roaring now, and the next batch won't wait. You glance at the trays, at the sacks, at the trough. The smoke still lingers in your throat, but you swallow it down. Your head is pounding. Your arms are heavy. Your body screams for rest. But the oven does not care. The bread does not care. And the master, least of all, cares. You walk back to the bench, each step a blur, and dip your hands into the flour again. They disappear into the dust as if nothing happened. As if your muscles weren't quivering. As if your lungs weren't scorched. As if you hadn't just crawled through smoke to birth the same fire that will burn your work to ash if you falter. The bakery is loud again. The rhythm resumes. And you return to it, like you always do. Not because you want to, but because there's no other place to go. The ash settles without warning. It doesn't fall like snow or swirl like dust. It simply appears, as if the air itself is exhaling fatigue. You don't notice it at first. You're too busy turning dough, wiping sweat, breathing through your mouth to keep the heat from choking you. But then your hands, already cracked and red, begin to itch. You glance down and see it clinging to your skin, thin and grey and fine as ground bone. You brush it away, but more appears. You touch your sleeve and feel it there, too. The edge of the workbench is dusted in it. The windowsill. The lip of the trough. Even the dough you've just finished folding bears a faint grey film, like a blessing from a weary god. You know the fire is burning too hot now. The wood is dry, the draught too strong. The oven breathes too fast, and the price is this. Ash everywhere. You cross to the hearth and open the iron mouth just a little. Smoke curls out like a whisper. The logs have burned too far down, and the fresh fuel you added has caught too quickly. The fire spits tiny sparks that land at your feet and die before you can react. You grab the peel, the poker, the broom, tools worn smooth from years of correction, and begin scraping the ash back from the front of the oven, pushing it toward the sides, toward the pit beneath. The dust rises around your face, into your nostrils, into your lashes. You blink, but it doesn't help. You cough, but the sound is swallowed by the crackling fire and the groan of wood settling under heat. You hear someone calling from outside, distant, muted, but you don't stop. You keep clearing, keep breathing ash, keep sweating it out through your skin, only to have it stick to you again. The bakery no longer smells like bread. Not really, not right now. It smells like heat and burning and damp linen. It smells like your own exhaustion. You wipe your face with the back of your hand and leave a long, dark streak across your cheek. You don't notice. You're coated in it now, from hairline to heel. Your apron is no longer white, not even grey, just a mottled canvas of soot and flour and effort. You press your hands to your thighs and feel it there too, ground into the fabric, into the skin. Even your lips taste of it, even your breath. You're not just in the bakery, you are part of it. Part of the walls, the stone, the dust that collects in corners no one cleans. You could lie down in the ashes now, and no one would know you didn't belong there. You stand again, slower than before, and return to the bench. The dough needs shaping. The trays need filling. The next round is already late, and you're the only one who knows how far behind you are. You slap the dust from your hands and roll the first ball of dough into a rough circle, your fingers leaving clean streaks across its surface, like tracks in untouched snow. You work quietly, rhythmically, the ash still swirling, still settling. You hear it crunch faintly under your boots with each shift of weight. You wonder when the day turned, if it ever really began. You wonder if there's ever a time in this place when the air is clear, when your skin is your own, when the bread isn't marked by something unseen. But it's a brief thought, the kind that disappears between loaves. You keep working, the ash keeps falling, and there's no end in sight. Not yet. By the time the light begins to fade beyond the cracks in the shutters, the bakery takes on a different stillness. It isn't quiet. There's always noise, the creak of cooling wood, the low hiss of the oven, the scrape of your own breath. But it feels like something is winding down. The orders are mostly filled. The paying customers have come and gone. The trays are fewer now. The baskets are mostly empty. And what's left, what little there is, doesn't belong to the bakery anymore. It belongs to the monastery. Not out of charity, not out of kindness, but by arrangement. The master has a deal with the brothers, leftover bread in exchange for prayers and favor and the occasional bucket of soup. What isn't sold by dusk is bundled and sent. Not the good loaves, of course. Only the ones too dark, too flat, too small. The ones no one else wanted. You gather them in silence. 6 loaves today. Maybe 7, if the cracked one still holds its shape. You wrap them in rough cloth, careful not to smear the ash too deep into the crust. The monastery is only a short walk away, beyond the well, past the shrine, behind the stone wall where ivy grows like veins. A boy will come to fetch the bundle. He always does. Thin, quiet, never makes eye contact. You don't know his name. He just waits in the shadow near the alley, says nothing, takes the cloth, nods once, and disappears. You don't know what the brothers do with the bread. You've never been. But you've seen the line. At the gate, around the corner. It starts forming even before the sun begins to drop. Old women with sunken cheeks, men with torn boots, children with swollen eyes and empty hands, all of them waiting for whatever makes it through the door. 6 loaves won't feed them. Not even close. You think about that as you place each one into the bundle, folding the cloth like it matters, like reverence could stretch a crust into a meal. You remember how many were thrown out last week. Loaves too hard, too wet, too strange in shape to sell. Some days the master keeps those for the pigs. Some days he burns them in the fire. But today, the numbers didn't work in their favor. There was little waste, little left, and the monastery will get what little remains. You wonder what it's like, standing in that line, waiting for food you didn't pay for, food that someone else didn't want. You wonder what it feels like to receive something cold and broken and be told it's a blessing. Maybe they're grateful. Maybe they're not. Maybe hunger is too loud for feelings. You tighten the knot at the top of the cloth, carry the bundle to the door, and set it down. The boy is already there. You hadn't even heard him. He doesn't knock. He never does. You nod, and he nods back, and you pass it to him without a word. His hands are thinner than yours, but more certain. He doesn't flinch at the weight. He turns and walks off down the path, the bundle against his chest, his steps soft and quick. You watch him disappear into the shadows, then close the door and return to the warmth. The bakery feels heavier now. Not hotter, just heavier. The fire has burned low. The dough has all been used. There's nothing left to shape, nothing left to lift. You wipe your hands on your apron and sit for the first time in hours. You're not hungry. Not anymore. Not exactly. But you think of the people in line, waiting for that bundle, and for a moment you feel ashamed of how warm your hands still are. The bread is gone. All of it. What wasn't sold has been sent to the monastery, and what wasn't sent has already gone hard on someone's table. The racks are empty now, the bench is bare, the baskets hang limp from their hooks, their handles frayed and damp from the day's work. There's no applause, no nod, no kind word, just the quiet acknowledgement that the day has ended and something else must begin. Cleaning. The part no one sees, the part no one wants. You fetch the pail of lukewarm water and the worn rag, the cracked broom, the blunt scraper with its bent iron edge. Your knees protest as you crouch down near the oven mouth, where the ash has formed a black crescent on the floor. It always collects there, like a stain the fire refuses to forget. You start with the floor, scraping, brushing, collecting. Flour hardened into paste where it mixed with sweat. Bits of burnt crust scattered under the bench. Soot clinging to the cracks in the stone. You work methodically, not with care, but with endurance. The sound of the scraper against the floor is rhythmic, almost soothing if you let your mind go quiet. But your back doesn't forget. Your hands don't forget. The ache in your shoulders grows sharper with each push, each reach. You pause to wring the rag, watching the water swirl from grey to black. You pour it out and fetch another bucket. No one thanks you for this. No one even expects it done well. They only notice if it's left undone. If a visitor slips on the wet spot. If the master's boot lands in a pile of ash. Then it's your failure, your laziness, your fault. The oven is next. Not the fire itself that you'll feed again tomorrow, but the tools. The peel, the poker, the iron hook. You lean them against the wall and begin to scrub, removing layers of soot and grease that have soaked into the wood and metal alike. The handles are rough beneath your fingers, the grain raised from years of sweat and fire. You wipe them down one by one, then lean into the hearth and shovel the spent ash from the base of the oven. It's still warm, still clinging to the stone like memory. You work slowly, letting the heat curl around your arms, burning the last of the day into your skin. There's something final about it, like sealing a grave. The ashes fall into the pail in soft heaps, and the scent of them sticks to your clothes, your hair, your breath. You've breathed so much of this place today, it's hard to tell where it ends and you begin. When it's done, you sit for a moment on the edge of the bench. Not to rest, just to stop moving. Your hands lie useless in your lap, palms open, fingers curled inward like claws that forgot how to release. You look around at the space, cleaner now, though never truly clean. The floor is damp, The tools lean in a crooked line. The fire has faded to a dull glow. You feel empty in a way that has nothing to do with food. The kind of emptiness that comes not from lack, but from overuse. You've given the day everything. Every bit of strength, every breath, every thought. And what's left? No bread. No thanks. Just a room that expects you again tomorrow. Just the knowledge that this day, like every other, was consumed completely. And still somehow not enough. You didn't notice them at first. The heat and the work made everything blur together. Pain, sweat, effort, breath. But now, as the fire dims and your body starts to remember itself, the sting becomes clear. It's the palms, the same places every time. The fold of skin just beneath the base of the fingers, the edge of the thumb where the peel presses hardest. You flex your hand and feel it, raw, sharp, wet. The blisters have broken. You glance down and see them, torn open, shining faintly in the low light. The skin peeled back like parchment left too long near the flame. The flour clings to the raw flesh, turning the edges pale and grainy. You turn your hand slightly and hiss through your teeth. It hurts to straighten your fingers. It hurts to clench them. And you still have to do both. The sound of boots echoes near the doorway. The master is walking the floor again. You don't need to look to know it's him. You feel it in the weight of his steps, in the silence that follows each one. You pull your sleeves down quickly, wiping your palms against the rough cloth, like that will hide the blood and paste and everything in between. Then you tuck your hands behind the trough, gripping its edge as if in thought. He passes you slowly, saying nothing, his eyes flicking over the bakery with the cold efficiency of someone always measuring. If he sees the blisters, he'll mock them. Or worse, he'll accuse you of letting them slow you down. He'll say you held the peel wrong, that you gripped the scraper like a fool, that it's your fault the skin tore, that your hands are too soft, even now. That pain is a choice. Weakness, too. You nod when he speaks, though the words barely register. Something about the next delivery, about the door left open too long, about the grain shipment being light again. You answer with short replies, eyes lowered, hands hidden. You smile when you're supposed to. You don't let your fingers twitch, though the pain pulses with every heartbeat. You keep them pressed against the cool wood of the bench, hoping the chill will numb them. It doesn't. You imagine them reopening tomorrow, sticking to the dough, burning when they touch the iron tools, throbbing when you lift the baskets. But you don't say anything. You can't. You've seen what happens when others complain. How the master laughs, how he gestures toward the oven and says, "The fire doesn't rest, so why should you?" You've learned to keep pain private, like shame, like hunger. He leaves eventually, not with a word of praise, not with a nod, just the thud of the door and the silence behind it. You exhale, but it doesn't feel like relief. You uncover your hands again and look at them in the fading light. The blisters have torn fully now. The edges are red and raw, and the skin beneath shines with a kind of quiet fury. You think about washing them, but the thought of water makes your stomach turn. You reach for the scrap of linen in your apron pocket and wrap one palm slowly, wincing as the cloth sticks, then unravels again. There's no time for bandages, no point. They'll open again tomorrow. They always do. You press your hands flat against the bench and wait for the pain to settle into something dull. It always does. And when it does, you'll be ready. Not healed, not rested, just ready. Because readiness is all that's ever been asked of you, and all that's ever allowed. The bakery is nearly dark now. The fire has faded to a low glow, more ember than flame, its breath slow and tired. You've scraped the floor, washed the tools, stacked the trays, folded the cloths stiff with flour and old heat. There's nothing more to do. Nothing left to carry, nothing to lift. Your hands hang at your sides, heavy and pulsing, and your legs feel like they're made of cold dough. You move slowly now, not from laziness, but because every joint in your body has become a reluctant hinge. The master has gone, the shutters are closed, and the silence inside is complete. But before you cross the threshold, before you blow out the last lantern, you see it, just there, under the bench, near the wall. A single crust, half a corner, torn from something larger, missed by everyone but you. You crouch slowly, not out of stealth, but reverence. The crust is soft on one side, firm on the other, slightly warm still from the heat of the room. No one will notice it's gone. No one will count it against you. It isn't theft, not exactly. It's survival in its smallest form. You hold it in your fingers like something fragile, not because it is, but because the moment is. The scent rises to meet you. Faint yeast, old butter, a whisper of salt. You bring it to your lips and pause, eyes closed for just a second longer than necessary. And then you eat, slowly, chewing not with hunger, but with silence. The crust melts against your tongue, coarse and soft at once, like it doesn't belong to the same world as the rest of the day. For a single instant, it feels like a prayer, a secret, unshared benediction. You don't rush, you let it stay with you. You swallow and feel it move down your throat like heat returning to a cold room. It's not a meal, not even a mouthful, but it's something that's yours. Not assigned, not ordered, not judged. Yours because you saw it and chose it and needed it, and no one took it from you. That's rare. Rarer than the bread itself. You sit on the edge of the bench and lick the flour from your fingers, not out of habit this time, but ceremony. The fire crackles softly behind you, and for once, it doesn't ask for anything. You are not its servant in this moment. You are simply warm, and still, and full, just barely, but enough. Your breath comes slow. Your eyes sting, but you don't cry. You just stay there, in the quiet, letting the crumb turn into memory. Then you stand. You wipe your hands on your apron, even though there's nothing left on them. You glance around the room, at the oven, the bench, the hooks, the dust. It's all the same. It always is. But something about that single bite lingers in your chest, like a coal that won't die. You walk to the door and unlatch it. The air outside is colder than before, and the sky has gone from grey to black without your noticing. You step out into the dark with shoulders heavy, but heart just a little less hollow. The crust is gone, but its warmth remains. A crumb for the road. A reminder that even in this place of hunger and fire and silence, something soft can still be found. Something almost holy. The door creaks when you push it open, swollen from damp and warped at the base. You have to lift it a little to get it past the threshold. The room beyond is dark, save for the sliver of moonlight slicing through the cracks in the wooden wall. The air is still, cold, and stale, touched with the faint sourness of last week's wash water and the constant damp of unheated stone. You step inside and let the door fall shut behind you with a dull thud. It echoes more than you expect. The quiet here isn't restful, it's hollow. Not the end of noise, but the absence of it. The kind that seeps into your bones and stays. You don't light a candle. There's no need. You know where everything is. Where the broken stool waits in the corner. Where the threadbare blanket lies folded on the cot. Where the bowl sits, still dirty from yesterday, because you didn't have the strength to clean it. You take off your apron and shake it out by habit, watching the flour cloud rise in the moonlight like breath on a winter morning. It settles on the floorboards, adding a ghostly shimmer to the dirt. You hang it on the same nail, beside the same cracked window pane, and sit slowly on the edge of the bed. Your back sighs. Your hands fall into your lap, palms open, blistered, red, raw. They still smell like dough, yeast, salt, fire. You lift one to your nose and inhale. You smell like bread. You always do. You carry it home with you, clinging to your clothes, to your skin, to the strands of your hair. You're coated in what you make. And yet there is no bread here, not even a crust. The irony is sharp. You could laugh, but it wouldn't sound like laughter. You could cry, but it wouldn't help. Your stomach turns again, quietly, but there's no answer. You search the shelf near the wall, more out of habit than hope. A handful of dried beans, a scrap of onion skin, nothing you can chew, nothing that would feel like a meal. You return to the cot and pull the blanket over your shoulders. It smells like wood smoke and fatigue. The chill presses up through the floor, through your boots, through your bones. It will take hours to leave you, if it leaves at all. You close your eyes and try to forget the fire, the shouting, the endless motion. But the silence here only makes it all louder in your head. The day plays back in pieces, shaping, lifting, failing, hiding. You imagine the master's voice again, the heat of the oven, the sting of ash in your throat. You picture the loaves cooling on the rack, the ones you'll never taste, the ones others tore open with their teeth while you swallowed your hunger like guilt. You lie down without undressing. There's no warmth waiting beneath the blanket, just the shape of your own body from yesterday, and the day before, pressed into the straw. You shift once, twice. Then give up and go still. Sleep won't come quickly. It never does. You stare at the dark ceiling and breathe through your nose, hoping to hold on to the scent of bread a little longer, even if it mocks you. You made so many loaves, passed them into so many hands, but none of them were yours. You'll wake hungry tomorrow, just like you did today, and you'll go back, because there's nowhere else to go, because the bakery is the only place that pays, because home is only a place where you wait until morning. It has walls and a roof, but it gives you nothing, not warmth, not bread, not rest, just the memory of being somewhere that isn't outside. Home, but not home. Not really, not anymore. You lie flat on the cot, staring into the dark, the blanket pulled up to your chin, though it offers little warmth. The straw beneath you crackles with each shift, but you barely notice anymore. Your body is too tired to fight the cold, too tired even to ache properly. It's not the sharp pain of a wound, it's the dull, constant weight of every joint, every muscle, every inch of skin rubbed raw. Your fingers throb against the fabric. The blisters have stiffened. You don't dare unwrap them now. You turn your head slowly toward the wall, where a faint patch of moonlight shivers across the boards, and close your eyes. The room is quiet, but your mind is not. You hear the ovens crackle, the scrape of the peel against the stone, the soft slap of dough on wood. Even now, even here, your thoughts return to the bakery. They don't know how to leave. The scent is still with you. That mix of yeast and sweat and ash that's buried itself into your clothes, your skin, your breath. You thought you'd grow numb to it, but instead it follows you everywhere, like a mark of who you are, or maybe what you've become. It clings to the inside of your nostrils, seeps into your mouth, hides beneath your fingernails. You breathe in slowly, hoping to find some comfort in it, hoping that, now in the dark, the scent might turn soft, that it might remind you of something warm, something tender, something you've forgotten. But it doesn't. It reminds you only of kneading, of lifting, of the hiss of the master's voice, of all the bread you've shaped and never tasted. You roll onto your side and curl in slightly, as if that might close the door in your head. Sleep doesn't arrive like a blanket. It creeps in around the edges of exhaustion, slow and uncertain, always dragging the day behind it. When it finally takes you, it's not relief. It's just the next thing, and in it there's no dream. Not truly. only memory twisted into loops. You see your hands, caked in flour, pushing the same lump of dough again and again. You feel the wooden bench under your wrists, the sting of salt in cracked skin. You hear the same orders, the same boots, the same door creaking open. The dough resists you, then yields, then sticks again. It never finishes. The fire always needs feeding. The baskets always need carrying. No loaf is ever perfect. No loaf is ever yours. In your dream, you never stop working. You never get to wash your hands. You never get to sit down. When you finally stir again, an hour later, maybe two, your mouth is dry. Your back is damp. The scent of bread is still there, stale and faint, but sharper somehow, like it's grown in the quiet. You blink into the dark and realize you're clenching your hands. You open them slowly. The fingers creak. You shift under the blanket and try to sleep again, but you know it won't be deep. It never is. The bakery follows you into sleep and waits for you to wake. And when you do, before the rooster crows, it will be there again. The trough, the fire, the same weight in your chest. You'll rise, you'll walk, you'll knead. But for now, you lie still, with the scent in your nose, with the day in your blood, with the work still echoing in your hands. And in your sleep, even then, you keep shaping bread that will never be yours. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Today's story wasn't about a hero. It wasn't about war or glory. It was about a baker's apprentice, someone who feeds a village but goes to bed hungry, someone who smells like bread but rarely tastes it, someone whose hands ache, whose skin cracks, whose name no one remembers. If you felt the heat of the oven, the sting of flour in your eyes, the weight of tired limbs, then the story did its job. Let us know where you're listening from and what time it is. Somewhere, in another time, a baker lies down with the scent of bread still clinging to him and dreams of another day just like this one. We'll see you in the next video.